Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to make the impossible hand, I like to call it, or the 3D hand. It's an optical illusion where it looks like your hand is coming out of the paper. We're going to use a couple very simple art techniques to make that happen, and we're going to use some materials. So let's go over what we need first. I have a square piece of drawing paper. I also have a piece of scratch paper that will be helpful. I'll show you why in a moment. A ruler, a pencil, erasers. I have my pencil sharpener and my old Tupperware here, and then my colored pencils. All right, first things first, I'm going to place my hand on the paper. You can go straight in, you can kind of put it at an angle, just so it fills the space in an interesting way. Then I'm going to take my sharpened pencil, and this part is a little trickier than it seems. If you don't hold your pencil straight up and down, it can look funny, and here's how. If I tilt my pencil in, I'll end up with little twig fingers, right, like I'm made of branches, and if I tilt my pencil out, I'll end up with marshmallow fingers. So I really want to try to keep my pencil straight up and down. So I'm going to come in from the edge all the way at the edge of the paper, and I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on my hand. I should be able to feel the pencil against the edge of my hand, and that's going to cause it to catch all those little bumps, the knuckles and the fingernails. So keeping my pencil straight up and down as much as you can, straight up and down, really feeling against the edges of your hand. Take your time, go slow, straight up and down, all the way around. Take your time around the fingernails in particular, and pausing every once in a while to make sure that I'm still keeping my pencil straight up and down. Yes, I am. Coming up on the finger, the pinky finger, straight up and down. All right, and then all the way off the paper. Okay, cool. If I had any weird bumps or something looked silly, I could erase it and go in with my pencil and kind of smooth it out, right? You can correct it a little bit, but that looks pretty good. Okay, now we want to get the lines even going across our hand. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to make marks on the side of my page. So I'll lay my ruler up against the edge of my paper, and then I think I'm going to do every ½ inch. Those will be nice solid bands. You could do every 3/8, you could do every 1/4 inch, but those might be really tiny. So let's just do, actually, let's do 3/8. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, every third I'll make a mark. If you want it to be simpler, I'm going to change my mind. I always do that, you noticed. I'll do ½ inch just because that's easier for the sake of this demonstration. So on every big mark with a number, and then on the big mark that's halfway between those marks, halfway between the big numbers, you'll make a mark. So every big number, see how there's the 7, and then there's a long mark, that's where I'll go. And then there's the 6 and a long mark. And then I'm going to find the tall line that's halfway between them. So every ½ inch, doesn't really matter what you do as long as it's consistent. Okay. And same thing on the other side. So on left side and on the right side, here we go. Every ½ inch mark, just a tiny little hatch mark on the big line, at the inches, and then halfway between them. I'll hold up my ruler in a second and show you. Okay, so here's the number. There's a big line next to it, that's our inch mark. And then halfway between the big numbers is another big line, that's the ½ inch mark. So we'll do at every number and then halfway between every number. Okay, now, give myself some room. I'm going to lay my ruler on my paper and I'm going to connect these two hatch marks all the way down. when you hit a finger, which is a weird sentence to say, you have to do something a little tricky, so I'll show you. Okay, right here where there are fingers, I'm going to take my time and go slow because I'm not going to draw on the fingers. I'm going to do everything behind and around the fingers. Okay, I'll speed it up for a moment as I do these background lines. Go ahead. Now that you have the lines behind your hand done, we're going to add what are called the contour lines. Contour lines are lines that show the relief or the topography or the up and down of an object. So you could imagine if I were to draw a line up over my wrist, it's not going to go across because it has to climb the territory of my wrist. It has to kind of go up that mountain. So when I come down here to connect these two lines, I'm going to bring this line up and then I'm going to let it bend and come back down again. Bend and come back down. And then same thing here, and maybe it will go up a little higher because this part of my wrist is a little higher. And then same thing here, it's going to come up and climb up the back of my hand and then go down on the side of my hand. This part takes a couple tries usually for me. I usually make some sketch marks and play with it until I get a curve that I like. So don't be worried if you don't get it on the first round. That's why we have erasers. You can go ahead and erase your sketch marks if it's not working for you. But let's try. So you'll bring the line up and then kind of over and then down again so it meets the line on the other side. I'll show you a couple more. Up, and I might do a little divot here for the thumb maybe, and then down. And then here, as we start to get into the finger or knuckle territory, you might want to show some of that, or you might not. That's okay. I just want to make sure that I'm hitting the right line, which is actually this one here. Gets a little confusing, but it's going to be that one. Because this line, on the finger, this line is going to come up and then hit that one there and then go up over the thumb. Thumb's kind of fun because that's just an arc. A little rainbow line, half circle. Like I said, it takes a couple times to get the right curve. Don't worry if it's not perfect the first time. Almost never is. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit. I encourage you to do the same. And then let's meet back when we're ready for the next step. Okay, now that I have the basic idea, when it comes to these parts here where the hand meets the paper, I don't like it to be a super sharp angle. I want to kind of smooth them out. So I'm just going to curve that line a little bit so it's not like changing direction, but it kind of scoops down into it. See if you can do that. We're ready for the next step, which is to do all of your horizontal lines in pen. Now, I say that specifically because your impulse might be to outline the hand in pen, but we're not going to. We're just going to do the horizontal lines, leaving this outline of the hand in pencil. Very important. So I'm not even going to start drawing the hand. I'm going to turn my paper right away, and then I'm going to start outlining my lines in pen. So I'll use a ruler for the side to side part like this. Oops, here's where this comes in handy. I can sneak my paper underneath there to get that edge so I don't get ink on my table. So I'll go like this. And then as I reach the hand, I'm going to do this by hand. So I'll go smooth line, as smooth as I can make it, trying to make them look connected. I might even just do the hand first and then do the outside lines. Maybe that's the way. Notice how I'm always learning. You think you have an idea, and then sometimes you get into it and you find a better way. That's one of the things I love about art. It's not a set process. You get to tinker a little bit. All right, so I've decided that's my method. I'm going to go in and do the hand parts first, slowly and carefully with my pen, trying to make one smooth line. I'm also bringing the pen over the hand a little bit. Remember how we had it scoop out? So I'll do that. I'll go on the hand. This was my tricky line. I gotta pay attention. Smooth as I can. Whee! And then afterwards, I can do the lines with my ruler. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and outline these. Meet you on the other side. Okay, something I'm noticing is there's a little bit of a bare spot here at the wrist. That's because there should be a little line coming up. This would be the bottom line, so there should be a curve. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. One little curve. I'll make that feel a little bit more full and complete. Here I go. Okay, great. You'll notice that some sections in between I just did by hand. You don't need to use your ruler on those tiny sections, but it's helpful on the big areas outside. Last thing I need to do is erase my pencil marks. So keeping this outline of the hand as much as I can, I'm going to erase my pencil marks inside the hand and outside the hand, being careful as much as possible not to crumple the paper. And the way that I prevent that is I try to span my hand like this, kind of wide, and then I erase in between. It provides some tension, so you're less likely to crinkle your paper. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but that's one of my tricks. I'll try with my kneaded eraser, and if I have some stubborn pencil, I'll use my white vinyl. All right, here I go. All right, lastly, I'm going to erase with my kneaded eraser over my hand outline very lightly. I want it to be there, but I want it to be light. So I can still see it, but it's not gonna jump out to the viewer. So with my kneaded eraser, I'm just gonna brush it over the outline of my hand. Okay, you can see it's there, but it's much lighter. That side's a little dark. Another swipe. Cool, now we're ready to color. You can do any color combination you want. I like to do at least 2 colors so that there's some alternation that gives a sense of pattern and adds to the illusion. If you wanted to do rainbow, if you wanted to do a value scale, if you wanted to do 5 colors, if you want to do your favorite sports team, it's up to you. I'm going to pick a couple colors that I'm liking today. Yes, maybe green and yellow, maybe green and yellow and blue. That sounds good to me. Okay, now this is where this piece of scratch paper comes in handy. Let's say I'm starting on my first color. I'll go ahead and do blue. I'm going to shade it in, but if I have this piece of paper underneath it, when I get to the edge, I don't have to worry about getting color on my table, and I don't have to worry about sneaking up to that edge. I can go right on over. So that's where this comes in handy. I'm going to color a couple rows, and then I'll show you the secret technique, and then I'll let you get to coloring. I'll speed it up while I color the first few. See you in a second. So I did a couple of rows so you can see that the pattern is starting to emerge. Here's where the fun starts. I'm going to take a shadow color for each of my stripe colors. So I've got a slightly darker version. So I've got a darker blue, a darker green, and a darker yellow. And I'm going to do a little bit of shading on the sides of the hand, and this is going to make it look 3D. So we'll do a little bit of shadow. So right here, here's the edge of my hand. I'm going to find the edge of my hand, I'm going to be pointing at it, and I'm going to press down a little bit hard, and then I'm just going to lighten up my hand. This is called a value shift. So I'm pressing down on that edge, and then I'm lightening my hand and kind of pulling it back as I'm drawing back and forth. So it goes from dark to lighter on the side of the hand. Let's do it down here too on this wrist. So I'll go press down hard, or relatively hard, harder, and then I lighten my hand as I pull back. And what it does is it makes it look rounded. Let's do it on the other side as well for the full effect. So I'll find that edge, press down a little bit harder, make sure that I get all the corners of it, and then relax my hand. Just go a little bit softer as you move towards the center of the hand. And then I kind of go back and fill the spaces. I'll do the same thing here. Find that edge. Sometimes I kind of draw it in first. Find that edge, and then press down a little bit harder. Press down, press down, press down, and then relax your hand as you draw it back. Like that. And what you're left with is a picture that's starting to look more three-dimensional. We did it on the hand. To really seal the deal, we're going to do it on the surface of the table as well. So now I'm coming in from this side. I'll find the edge, press down a little bit harder, and then relax my hand, relax the pressure as I pull my hand back like that. And it's going to look like a little scoop. Let's do the same thing here. Press down, and then let it get lighter as it moves away from that bend in the paper. And same thing over here. Press down and let it get lighter. Go back in and fill the gaps. Press down, let it get lighter. All right, I want you to give this a try. I'll fill these in so you can see what the illusion looks like, and you can try it on your own paper. All right, meet you back in a second. there is the bottom section. Now you'll want to do this to the whole picture. This takes some time. The coloring takes some time. I recommend that you enjoy it. Put a book on, a podcast, some music, sit there, kind of zone out. I would do all of your colors first and then go in and do the shading. I think that's the quickest method. All right, I look forward to seeing what you create. Happy art making. Okay. All right, I have colored everything in. I had a couple final notes. First thing, it can be easy to miss a section, so I like to just kind of run my finger along the edge of the drawing and make sure I haven't skipped any areas. I found a few earlier that I just forgotten to color in. For example, I probably should color that little section in and this little section in. You just kind of run your eye along and make sure that nothing is missing. And the other thing is that once I started coloring up here, I got a lot darker than down here. So I actually went back in and darkened some of these sections just so that they look even. I want this shading to be pretty even so that the yellow kind of lines up with the blue, kind of lines up with the green. So that's the last thing that I'm checking. All right, when you like it, go ahead and clear your space, take a nice square picture. Go ahead and look at the instructions for how to take a nice square picture and turn it in. Thanks so much. Have a good day.